Hey y'all, it's Lucy, and today we're going to make this little castle. Let me get it lined up right. We're going to make this little castle. I call it a simple castle because it's basically 4 components, so different sides you can choose from and 4 towers. And first I'm going to show you how it works within Cricut Design Space because that's what I use to cut it out. And then we'll go to construction. Okay, let's get started. Now I'm going to show you how to use the Simple Castle files in Cricut Design Space. I'm going to New Project. I'm going to upload. The upload button is in the lower left-hand corner. And then the next thing we do, we kind of follow the green button. So let's go to Upload Image. I'm going to browse. I'm going to find it on my desktop. This is the file for the Simple Castle. I'm going to the SVG files, and this is my newest version. I always try to improve them, so I'm going to choose that version. And when I look at this, I'm like, yep, that looks like the correct file. So the next green button is in the lower right-hand corner. So let's click Continue. Then we go to the Image Details file, or Image Details page. I'm going to click Upload in the lower right-hand corner. And this is my file. I'm going to reduce the size so that it fits on the screen and I can see all the pieces. There is another version. Let me go ahead and upload that. Upload image, browse. This is what we call the stacked version, where everything is designed so it's stacked on a 12 by 12 inch mat. Sometimes Cricut has an update that makes it challenging to upload this version, so I'm including a stacked version. But I think it's much simpler to use the pieces when they're laid out like this. All right, I'm just going to hide this version, the stacked version. So I'm clicking the little eyeball icon. This is the lower layers panel and hiding it. And now I'm going to ungroup this file so I can change score, so I can find score lines. That's the first thing I need to do. So to ungroup, this is the ungroup button. So I'm clicking on it. You know, we're in the layers panel, ungroup. And then the next thing I do is check my scale. And it shows it's a 1-inch square and it says 1 by 1. So I know it's the right scale, so I can delete this now. Hitting the trash can under the layers panel. And now let's find all the pieces, which is almost every piece, needs score lines. Actually, first I'm going to tell you a little bit about the pieces. If you want to make a drawbridge, these are your drawbridge pieces. This is kind of the support for the drawbridge. This is the overlay, so it's kind of designed to look like wood. And if you want one section of your castle to look like, have a drawbridge, this is the one you use. This is sort of the church-like function, the church-like side. And I added a little extension on it just to make it a little fancier. These are the roof pieces for this side. This is a plain side if you want it. This is a plain side, and this side has just a little door, just for a little interest. And here is the stone overlay. Let me bring it to front. A little stone overlay. I'm going to enlarge the size too, so you can see it a little better. So if you want to use that for one of your 4 sides of the castle, those are the pieces you'd use. And this is just kind of the plain one, which is one of the ones I used for one of the sides. So you have 4 different options for the 4 different sides. You can use, you know, whichever ones you want. I really like the drawbridge. Show you a little bit thing. So if you want the drawbridge to have a way to open, then you need to use this little stone overlay with the little holes in it. And let me bring that to the front. So that will go around the door that has the holes in it. And you put this underneath, glue it kind of underneath the thing drawbridge section, and then you glue this door to this drawbridge section. I'll show you when we construct it. All right, let me see. Like I said, almost every piece except the decorative elements, the windows and the doors, have score lines in them. So I'm just going to do one or two. Oh, there are 4 towers, and the towers are all the same. So cut 4 of these and 4 steeples. So let's just do the score lines for the steeples and the tower. So you see this series of lines. We're in the layers panel. See this series of lines. Let's just click on that set of lines. And I draw my score lines in red. The color box should be red. And then go to the operations menu, click score. You see the lines are now dotted or dashed lines, and it's been changed to score. But we need to make sure our machine understands that these score lines are to go with this piece. So we use the little paper clip, the attach button at the bottom, attach. And then let's do the same thing with the tower. Here's the tower. I select the score lines. This set of lines, I isolate them, select them, check to make sure the color box is red, so you know my intention was to turn them into score lines. Then scoot over to the operations menu, scroll down to score, back over to the layers panel, select the whole piece and attach. And we'll do that with all of these pieces that have lines. Like I said, every piece on the castle does have score lines. These are supports for 3 of the side pieces. So these glue behind the side pieces so that you have like a little walkway. And I added some little flags to the castle pattern, and they have score lines as well. You can cut them just as easily by hand, but I included it just so you'd know. All right, I think that's everything. In terms of, I'm going to reduce the size so you can see everything again. In terms of types of cardstock, I think it works better if you use a heavier cardstock to glue all these pieces together. So if you can use like a 80-pound to 110-pound cardstock, your castle will be sturdier. You can do it with 65, but it's just sturdier if you use heavier cardstock. All right, off to construction. Okay, what do you need to make the simple castle? Well, I'm using 2 different kinds of glue. Actually, if I was just doing cardstock, I would use the Barely Art glue. But since I'm making this one out of cardboard, painted cardboard in fact, which is a little more challenging, I'm going to use a tacky glue, a quick dry tacky glue. And but the cardstock, for the body, I would use a heavier cardstock. This is a heavier cardstock, and it will hold, both of these are heavier cardstock, and it will hold the castle together better if you use a heavier cardstock. For example, this is 110-pound cardstock. For the cardboard, I just use kind of my regular sort of standard cardstock cardboard for me. And this is 22-point cardboard. And you can kind of see the thickness here, but it makes a nice sturdy little castle. I am using painter's tape because I am painting my cardboard, and I mixed it with sand, so it's a rougher surface. So you have to work a little harder to get glue to stick. To make sharp folds on my cardboard, I'm using a metal ruler and the back of a craft knife, the back of it, not the sharp point, the back part, because it makes really sharp score lines. See what a nice sharp score line? My machine does the initial scoring, and then I reinforce the scoring by doing that. I do that on cardboard. It just makes it fold nicer. I'm using some different colors, and I'm going to make some little flags for the top of the towers, kind of like this. This one's not glued in, but kind of like this. But you can use a pin with the flags, and there are 2 little flag patterns in your design. Let's see what else. That's mostly it. Oh, here's the paint. I mixed up this paint, this just gray paint in a jar, and I mixed it with sand so it would have more texture. So it's a lot thicker. You can kind of see the texture on the edge of the jar. Okay, let's get started with the actual construction. First, I'm going to make the towers. They're the easiest part. These are the 2 additional tower pieces. I've got 4. I've got 2 of them already glued together. And before I paint, I always fold along the score lines, because once you paint, you kind of obscure the score lines. And even when I'm working with cardstock, I fold along the score lines and then I apply windows and stuff. It just helps you center things better. So let's make one of the towers. I'm going to apply glue. This is the glue tab. I'm trying to use up some bottles of glue, some old bottles of glue. I'm smearing it because it glues faster and it gets sticky faster if it's a thinner layer. Again, make sure your folds are good, because you want it to make a nice little square. Try not to stick your thumb in the glue. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up some pieces of painter's tape, because I know I need it for this particular section of the castle. So line it up, this line and the bottom line. Apply some painter's tape to keep it where I want it. And one more in the center. That was Alley Cat. And I'll do the same thing. Oh, and when I pre-paint my stuff, I'm not a good painter, so I always paint before I glue it together, or almost always do that. And when you fold it, often the edge kind of opens up, so I'll do some touch-up painting on these edges when I get done. Now we have all the towers glued together. I'm going to let them dry. And in the meantime, I'm going to work on the steeples. This is one of the steeples. And again, it's got nice score lines, but the cardboard kind of opens up, and so I will touch up that when I'm done. I'm going to glue it together. I'm applying glue to this tab. Now there's a little trick to gluing the steeple together. So when you put it together, sometimes you have to kind of pull in this direction so that it lines up correctly at the bottom. So sometimes you have to kind of twist it this way, but whatever gets it lined up. And then I like to tuck in at the top so it doesn't make such a large little peak. This one at the top, and then once you get the top lined up, you got to go back to the bottom again and make sure, and then kind of check to make sure it's square. And this one's holding pretty well, but I think I'm still going to use a little piece of painter's tape just to make sure. And that's how you do the steeple. I've already got my steeples done, and I painted them a darker color because I wanted contrast. Let me show you my prototype. I wanted some contrast, I just think, and I also made them a little deeper because I think they fit on better. But I like the contrast with the body of the castle. So these are the side pieces, or the connecting squares, kind of. This is the one with the drawbridge. So if you're going to do the drawbridge, put the one with the holes on the outside, and I'll show you how to, when we construct it, I'll show you how to add the drawbridge to make it so it goes up and down. So this is the drawbridge. This is the part with the holes. This is the drawbridge. This one is a more church-like design, and I didn't put the door here, and I'll show you why, because there's a little front extension, and if you have the door, it kind of interferes with these glue tabs. So I didn't add a door on this one, but it does need a door on front. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's add this door. I haven't added a backing to these door pieces because I want, I like the open feel, like the castle. I mean, the windows have to be open so they can defend the castle. So that's why I'm not putting any vellum or colored paper behind the windows, but you can do that if you want. And again, it's not sticking real easily simply because I painted with a textured paint. So I'm going to try to leave this alone for a minute and let it adhere. And we can go ahead and make this piece. Remember, this is going to be the outside because we're going to put that front extension here. And you make the front extension in a very similar way. These are glue tabs, and I put this kind of roof tab behind it so that it kind of holds the roof in a good conformation, a good shape. I'll show you. We'll do the same kind of thing here. First, I am going to glue it together. The little extension doesn't have a complete back, but the roof tabs glued together the same way. So I'm going to apply glue to my side glue tab. Remember to line up the bottom because that's how it stands up straight, to line up the bottom. Okay, now let's glue down. These are the roof flaps. We're gluing the roof tabs to the roof flaps. Okay, I'm sure I'm going to need my painter's tape here. See if this will hold it. You want to make sure it stays square. You don't want to be turning it all wonky. And if you can't fit your hand inside, get scoring stylus or pencil even, something to apply some pressure so the roof flap connects to the roof tabs. And it's a little fiddly, no question about that, but it does help it stay square. There we go. Now we're going to let this one dry. And remember, this is the front, and we'll glue this on once it's a little sturdier. Let's make another side piece. This is the side piece. You know, it's plain on one side and it's got the door on the other. So the door goes on the outside. This edge will not be seen because it's kind of hidden between the two towers. So I actually didn't paint very well there. I am going to have to do some touch-up painting on this side. And sometimes when I use painter's tape, it pulls up a little bit of the paint too. So may have a little touch-up there as well. So let's see, how many do we have? We've got a plain one. We've got one with the door. We have the more church surface. And then the drawbridge. Let's work on the drawbridge now. If you want the drawbridge to move, which I think looks really good, I'm going to go ahead. This is the piece that will fit inside the drawbridge, sort of fits inside. The drawbridge flap doesn't go inside, but this piece goes inside. And so if we want to add a chain or a string, we need to do, it's much easier to do before you glue it together. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to use chain from the hobby store. So I have my chain. I have 2 jump rings. So actually I need 4 jump rings. I have 4 jump rings. They don't exactly match, but it's not going to matter. And I'm going to cut a little bit of chain. So I've got wire cutters here. All I want is my chain to go kind of like a little arch. So I may cut it a little long now, but I can shorten it in a minute. So I'm just going to cut it with my little mini wire cutters, my little mini inexpensive, not great wire cutters. Cut 2 chains. And I'm keeping this drawbridge simple. I don't have a mechanism for pulling it up and down, but I still think it looks good. 2 pieces of chain. Now I need 2 needle nose pliers. So I'm not an expert at this. You want to open your ring up like that by twisting it sideways, not by opening it this way. Okay, let's see if we can, I don't know if these are too big, if it'll thread. This is always the hard part for me, getting the chain on. Probably because I bought too small a chain. There, we're on. Okay, let's seal it up before I lose it again. There we go. Right now, I'm actually going to thread it through this way. So the jump ring prevents the chain from pulling through. Okay, there's the inside. Here's the outside. Oh, let's go ahead and add the wooden overlay. So basically you just glue. The wooden overlay is just a piece that glues on and it's got the holes through it. All right, let's do the other side. Again, before I forget and mess up, I'm opening it up, threading it. There we go. Closing my jump ring, threading it through the back. And now, since we've got this in place, we can go ahead and glue this together because we can add this, we can add the base and attach these rings once we've got it glued together. We'll glue this together just like we glued all the other pieces, all my connection pieces with the side glue tab. And again, make sure all the corners are folded because it will stick together so much better when you've got your corners pre-folded. Let's put the bottom piece in. It goes like this when the drawbridge is up. And if you want, you can make an extra piece to go here. I just didn't cut out an extra one with holes in it. So if you want a wood surface, you can glue it on both sides. Make sure it's looking square. Applying glue to these little tabs. And let's insert them in the bottom. I'm going to need some glue, some painter's tape here. Okay. Now the other thing is I like, and this is one reason you had to install these first, is I like the top of the castle to have a little walkway. Let me show you on my prototype. So I've added a piece so you can add a little walkway. So this goes in. It's a kind of an H-shaped piece, and it goes in like this. And you just kind of push it down, and the little legs are kind of spacers that show you how far to go. Because of all the cardboard and the thickness of the cardboard, I'm actually going to trim it a little bit. That sort of happens when you design for both cardstock and cardboard. And this is, kind of thick painted cardboard as well. So I'm just cutting off a sliver. It fit well with the cardstock. Cardstock is thinner, but cardboard takes up a little more space, so sometimes you have to trim it a bit. And I just want to be honest about that. I know most people make my projects out of cardstock, but for the few who make it out of cardboard, this should slide in better. It does. Like I said, the little legs kind of tell you how far to push it down so that it's even. And before you do that, you should apply glue. In other words, I got to take it out again. It's actually in there nicely. So what I'm going to do, now I'm going to glue the little legs and put them in properly. Slide this addition inside, get the glue off my hands, slide it in, push it down, wipe off the glue that I've smeared everywhere. There we go, we almost have the drawbridge piece done. Stands up nicely. Now I have the two chains in place. I'm going to do the same thing and add a jump ring and thread them through these little holes. I hope. And if there's not enough room, I use like a stylus or something to enlarge the hole a little bit. Put it through and then see how long you want it. I like it to drape just a little bit. And get our other jump rings and our 2 little needle nose pliers. Open the jump ring just by twisting it a little bit. Try to thread it through. There we go. And I'm going to, and now we will close this jump ring again. And you can use string if you want, just tie knots, probably easier. No, not probably easier, it's much easier. I just think with the castle, I like the way that looks. And I can cut off these extra rings if I want. I'm not gonna bother with it. I'll do the second one now, and now we're done. And we've got our little chain. So that is the drawbridge section. Okay, let's finish this section of the castle. This is kind of the more ornate opening, sort of a church-like opening. And now I'm going to apply glue to the back of this little front extension. And I'm going to add a little glue here on these roof flaps where the extension attaches to this connecting piece on the castle. Okay. I'm going to smear it down a little bit and apply it. Remember, the most important thing is lining it up with the bottom. Of course, centering it's nice too. That's sticking pretty well. Now I painted a different, like a slightly darker gray for the roof to give me a little contrast. And I'm going to wait to put that on until this adheres a little better. You could use a clamp or painter's tape here. I think I'm going to use painter's tape. Overall, it's sticking pretty well, but I just want it to be kind of square. It's not perfectly square. See, that side needs to ooch in a little bit. There, that's much better. And now let me straighten it so that it's straight everywhere. Okay, stand it up, stands up nicely. And I think we can go ahead and glue this roof on. I'm going to try to keep just a little pressure on this extension while I'm applying glue to these tabs at the top. Smooth it down a little bit. I like it to catch on the edge, meaning I like it to the glue to be right along this edge. I think it holds it better. And unlike most roofs, this one does not extend over each of these sides because it's going between 2 towers. And I want it to be even in the front and back, meaning just a little overhang in the front and the back. If anything, I may do a little more overhang in the front. All right, that's good. And let's see if we can go ahead and add the roof to the front extension. Normally I would put this roof on first, but it wasn't dry enough, so that's why I did the major roof first. And you don't have to smear it down and get your fingers gluey if you don't want to. I kind of don't mind. You know I like glue. I mean, it's not like I really want it on my fingers, but I don't mind. So if your roof is popping up, this is how I'll show you how I tape it. But really, the key is patience. Give it some time, and then you don't have to tape it. You know, if you don't mess with it and don't get it out of line. So I kind of anchor it on one side and kind of pull across. And it's not sticking real well because of the paint. Okay, that ought to hold that part down. Now let's fix this part. Okay, this one is done. So the next thing we need to do is add some flags to our steeples. All right, I'm going to make a couple of flags. I painted some paper clips, some toothpicks with the same color paint as the color of the roof. You don't have to do that, but I think it helps it from showing so much. So I kind of like the pennant flag. I put 2 in your pattern. There's, you know, kind of the little inset, looks like sort of a ribbon flag, but I really like the pennant better. So add a little glue, and then I just use some scraps. You can use the pattern for this, or you can just cut it out by hand. It's actually simpler just to cut it out by hand. Okay, let's get the toothpick and make sure we kind of embed it in some glue. And put the 2 ends together and try to make sure it's straight, not angled. So, right, there we go. And to add the flags, sometimes when I make my steeples, there's kind of a gap at the top. I actually did pretty well on these. That one's got a bit of a gap. I think I can show you on these, on this one. See, there's kind of a gap at the top of this, this steeple. So it's very easy to put a flag in there. It just slides right in. But it's also, I don't think it looks as good. So for the ones, for the steeples where I did a good job, I'm going to get a needle, and this is like an embroidery needle or tapestry needle. It's a big needle, and poke a hole. Really, I'm kind of opening up that space. So I've opened up the space in this one, and I'm heating up my glue gun, and I'm going to apply one of the flags. So again, trying to make sure it looks straight. And now this is the toothpick inside. 4 little flags. Glue gun. Yep. Glue gun is warm. And I just put some in the bottom. I'll lay it down for just a second because I don't want the glue dripping out. But I do want to be able to check and make sure that I have kept my flag straight. Now we can glue them onto the steeples, onto the towers themselves. Now again, you can use hot glue if you want. I don't usually use hot glue here, just because sometimes I need to reposition and make sure that it's square using my stronger glue. But it'd certainly be an easy time to use hot glue since you just put the flags in. And one thing is, make sure your windows are pointing in the correct direction so they're up, that you don't apply the tower upside down. That will make you sad. Yeah, you know, not like that, like this. Stuff like that happens. It happens to me. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. Okay, so these 2 are the front, and these 2 are the back. So they're all in the correct orientation. I'm going to let those dry for a minute. Once these are all dry, then we'll glue our connecting sections together and really put the castle together. All right, I've gotten all the pieces finished, my connecting pieces and my towers. I kind of painted them a little bit. So I covered up the corners, the roofs are glued on, we've got our drawbridge, and I did trim off the extra chain that was at the bottom. I've got the flags in, so let's make one of the pieces. First I'm going to make the front piece. So I'm going to make one section of the front piece with the drawbridge. So I need 2 towers and the drawbridge. And the way I like to glue them together is so that the center piece is recessed just to give a little dimension. I think that works better. And then in the back it'll be flat. All right, using my stronger glue, my stronger tacky glue, I'm applying it to the center piece because that's narrower than the towers. And I can be sure, or pretty sure, I won't get the glue in the wrong places. Flipping it over. Going to smear it flat so it'll adhere faster. And line up the back and the bottom and just smush it together. Let's do the same on this side. We know that our windows are on the outside. And line up the back on both sides. Let me see how it looks. Looks good on one. Let me move this one forward a little bit. I'm just applying a little pressure And there's one of our sections. And this ought to stick together pretty well because there's not, it's not like a rooftop where it's kind of pulling away. These are just straight lines, so these should stick together pretty easily. You can reinforce them if you want to put like a clip or something at the bottom, you can do that. Okay, I'm going to set this one aside. Let's get another one. So for the back, I'm going to use this, or, you know, back or front. Let me show you on my prototype. So this is one way, and then the back had the drawbridge section. So I'm going to do the same kind of design. Let me find my towers. Try not to mess them up. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to test it because I don't want it to, I want to make sure my flags are in the right direction. Okay, so I've got it. The other thing is, I notice even though I trimmed it a little bit, these roof pieces extend just ever so slightly, so I'm going to get my scissors and trim them. It'll make putting the towers on much easier. So I'm just kind of angling it. I'm just going to trim off a little bit. That looks better. Let's see, I think that looks better. I think this corner, these corners fit. Okay, I got to check again because okay, so I'm going to rotate it. So all the flags go in the same direction. Actually, I'm just going to lay it, nope. This is the back side, it's got to lay down flat. So I'm going to lay it down like this. Apply glue to this side. Okay, I've got the glue applied. And lining up the back side. Okay, that looks very good to me. This one will be facing they're facing in opposite directions. Okay, so I've got these two sections. Now I'm going to let them dry, and then I'm going to do exactly the same thing with my connectors. These are what I call the less ornate pieces. I'll let these two main sections dry, and then I'll put the connectors in. So I'll show it to you when I'm done, when these are dry and I've got the connectors in place. Well, the glue gun is here. This is my base because I want the castle to look like it's on a kind of a hilltop. Let me show you. This is how it's going to go. So I'm just going to hot glue these together, and then I'll cover them with paper mache. And this is the finished castle. I added flags. They're on toothpicks. And I've painted the base green. I just thought it looked better. My brother told me the base looked like a pizza. So I redid it in green. I don't think it looks like a pizza now. Here's the little drawbridge. And it's just really cute. So I hope you will enjoy making this simple castle with 8 different pieces, but it's very easy to construct. Okay, y'all have fun.